like to call to order the information meeting of the City of Rapid City for Wednesday, the 20th of February, 2008. Nadine, do you mind taking attendance, please?
I think he broke that.
Tatman,
Here.
Olson, LaCroy, Hurlbut, Johnson,
Here.
Quaker,
Here. Just kidding.
Thank you, Nadine. We have one item on our agenda today, and it's sustainable design lead, and our presenter is Fred Thurston. And Fred, if you could introduce your partner today, who's teaming up with you, and the floor is yours.
Important issues that will come up in my lifetime, and I hope that we can work together as a team to really make a difference, not only in our community, but allow it to grow throughout the state and go throughout the entire world, actually. Want me to take off?
Handout for us? Do you want to
I do
hand
have
that
a
out
handout.
now,
I
or
will
the
certainly do
PowerPoint?
that. Yes. Thank you. We're really talking today about sustainable design, and it gets into an awful lot of different issues. It is each and every person's issue that is living on the earth today, to be able to look and see how they can participate in being able to be more involved in making our world more environmentally friendly. We have a phenomenal impact on the environment. We affect the economy, the health and productivity of people in the world today. The amount of pollution, the CO2, you've heard of carbon footprints. The amount of carbon that we put out is astronomical. Whether you believe in global warming or not doesn't make any difference. There is a climate change that's being affected by the carbon footprint and how much we use. We affect the quality of the environments in our workplace, in this council chambers. That it is important to realize that what we do today and how we design our buildings affects the productivity and the illnesses of the staff and the people living and working in those spaces. We have lots of waste. You know probably better than I do about the landfill and the need to continually grow that. Subsurface water contamination, and actually the water shortages that we have to drill new wells and buy new water rights to be able to fulfill that. There's habitat that we're losing, the rainforest, we're losing space due to urban sprawl, and non-renewable resources are going by the wayside. We need to turn down the global thermostat. Architects, together with the building industry, are responsible for over a third of the energy consumption and 1/3 of the greenhouse gases that are emitted. You and I, everybody today can make a difference, and every little bit of difference is important that we do make. In just the United States, our buildings consume 71% of the electricity, a total of 39% of the energy, 39% of the greenhouse emissions, 30% of the waste output, and 12% of the potable water. These are huge numbers. Worldwide, where the buildings use 17% of the water, 25% of the wood harvested, 33% of the carbon footprint, the emissions, and 40% of materials and energy use. You know, people think of the cars as being the way to solve the problem, or industry. If you look at the graph and find out where really the energy is being consumed, it's in our buildings. and we can make a difference with those. It isn't all that difficult if we just think about it. You'll see back in 1980, we had a surge in prices of gasoline. Energy prices went sky high, and there was a leveling off there. We did make a difference there because people were hitting their pocketbooks. We aren't taking that into effect today, even though the gas prices and our fuel prices, electric prices are going up. People are still consuming. It's going up at a faster rate, and it's going up faster in our buildings than it is in any other part of the economy. Our indoor environments are truly not as healthy as even the outside. We need to look at our indoor environments and see what we can do to make a difference there. What we can do first off is exactly what you've asked me to come do today. We can help educate. We need to educate people as to what it is. We need to practice energy and resource conservation. We've all seen the idea of the light bulbs that reduce energy conservation. They're a start, but there's lots of things that we can do. The use of greener consumer products. But by far the biggest impact is to be able to demand sustainable design buildings. Sustainability really is the process of designing buildings that are environmentally friendly, reduce consumption of non-renewable resources such as water and gas, coal, and the rest of electricity, minimize waste, and we'll talk about some of the different ways of being able to do each of these and creating a healthier, productive environments. That's one of the biggest ones. And when we talk about the return on the investment, one of the areas that people don't really realize is how important that return is. Sustainable design, it has so much to do with working as a team and designing and working together, and you as a council needs to be a part of that. We will talk a little bit more about how we will create a team, but we need to make good decisions as to what land gets used. We need to look at the water and energy and how they're being used in our buildings. We need to enhance human health in our buildings. Strengthen the local economy through sustainable design, because one of the issues with sustainable design is using products that are locally available rather than shipping things in from China or Japan or even Florida or California. Try to use local materials that don't have to be shipped here. Conserving plants, animals, endangered species certainly is a part of the environment, and protecting agricultural land and their resources. U.S. Green Building Council, who has put together the program referred to as LEED, and LEED stands for Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design, has done studies about the impact of sustainable buildings. And when we talk about cost, we need to also talk about what are some of the positive elements of it. Because sustainable buildings decrease their operating costs from 8 to 9%. They increase the building's value 7.5%. Now, it's hard for me to argue that point right now, because I just had an appraisal of our building that is a LEED certified building, and the appraisers in our area don't understand what the value change has been. But in more metropolitan areas where the program has been developed and being used on a regular basis, they have found those increases. And the return on the investment is 6.6% higher. Increase in occupancy, there's more demand for those spaces because they're healthier buildings and cost less to operate, and their rent increases. There are economic considerations because there's a reduction on the infrastructure. Your solid waste and wastewater processing is being reduced because there's less water being used in the buildings. Your electricity, water, and fuel and manpower savings. It encourages the increase of your local economy because it's, again, trying to enhance your local markets. It dramatically improves the human health, decreases medical insurance, health benefits, and employees on the job is higher. There is a potential increase in initial cost of the building, but that is balanced by the savings in your utility bills, your operating and maintenance, and increased productivity in the office. The amount of the cost varies dramatically depending upon what level of sustainability you go to. And we will get into the specific levels so that you can see how they would make a world of difference. This is a whole different frame of mind in doing buildings than it has been in the past. This is where we have to work as a team, that right up front, before a line is drawn into what the building is going to be, we need to work as a team to determine how are we going to create this building to be sustainable. One of the biggest mistakes that we have, and it's going on right now with one of our projects, is that we designed the building and it was not designed as a sustainable building. The owner did not want it as a sustainable building. Then they said, yes, we are going to make it a sustainable building when we're halfway through construction documents. Then they decided when we're 3/4 of the way through construction documents, it's going to be the next level of LEED certified building. So the cost on that became dramatically higher. We feel that getting together as a team and working with the local agencies, working with our engineers, the architects, the contractors. Contractors are a big element in building sustainable buildings. So it really is teamwork. You got to use a holistic, integrated approach in incorporating the green building practice. Sustainability has to be a goal right up front. It needs to be important. It optimizes the site potential. It utilizes a rating and certification system that we propose in our projects right now to be LEED. There are other systems that are available, but we feel that LEED is by far the best and gives us a good means of being able to evaluate the quality of the space and the quality of sustainability. It's an integrated approach. It's something that you do and you don't apply it to it. It's integrated in the design, and you know right up front where you want to save points. The owners and the tenants of the building will know that it's a green building. There's a difference. If you come into our building and experience our office, and some of you I know have, that there is a difference in the feel of the space. There's a difference in the attitude of the employees that are working there. There are different levels of sustainability, that a rating system, and the idea of a building getting certified rather than just following the concepts of it, allow you to have a verification of it. Even though our building had engineers and everything, when we actually had the third party coming in and certifying it, they reviewed every one of the mechanical systems. They reviewed to make sure everything was working as efficiently as it's supposed to be. And there were probably 8 different areas in our building that were not up to snuff, and we had to make adjustments after we'd moved in. We are going to go back after 2 years and do the same type of validation of it to be able to make sure that everything is still working and is going to be able to continue as a sustainable building. There are 6 different types of rating systems with LEED. What we'll talk about primarily today is new construction. And even though the building that we are now in is a historic building, because of the level of construction we did in it, it was considered and is being certified under new construction. There are existing buildings. There's LEED for existing buildings, LEED for commercial interiors, LEED for schools, retail, and healthcare. This is a real important one. LEED for schools. There's been enough studies on schools that they have shown that students in sustainable schools will learn, 16 to 25% faster and better than students that are not in LEED and sustainable schools. That's a big growth. That's a big improvement in our educational system to be able to use some simple design principles to improve the quality of our children's education. I would have done anything when my child was in school to be able to help her get a better education. We sent her to better colleges than some other opportunities that she had, which did cost more. But do you know what this is?
It's a virus. No.
Okay, thank you. So I really ask you to look seriously at LEED for schools. There's core and shell. That's if the building is already built and you have a tenant that's moving into the inside of the building, that they're just working on the core of it and not handling the shell. And there's actually neighborhood development. So that there are, and there's actually one up there. There's LEED for homes that's being developed right now as we talk. Speaking about right now as we talk, my partner is up at the state and giving a lecture at a very similar presentation to the legislators, because they're looking at passing a bill requiring LEED Silver for all the state-owned and funded projects. This is an important step that they're taking and is being done throughout the United States. Within the LEED for new construction, there are 6 different categories, and I have boards up here that go through all the points for LEED. This is the rating system. This is the rating system that we actually use on our building, so it shows what points are actually being used and which ones aren't. They're developed out of a book that I'm holding up here. It is 69 points that you go through, and you choose which points that you feel that you can appropriately do. We show on the left column the points we actually feel that we will get. And we're in the review process right now. We're not yet certified. We are registered as a LEED building. There's 40 points that we feel that we can get. We have 6 other points that we think we have a chance of getting, but we're not sure about them. We're working to try to have those additional 6. That takes us up to the 3rd level. If we can get the 40 points, we will be LEED Gold. But it does go through the different areas, and some, looking at a sustainable site and what it takes to select the right site. One of the issues for myself is being downtown. I'm not promoting urban sprawl. I am also being able to work with the transportation systems that we have in our area, because that gives me some credit. We work with stormwater to try to reduce the amount of stormwater runoff. That was difficult in our site because we had such a small site. But it goes through sustainable sites, water efficiency, energy and atmosphere, material and resources, the indoor environmental quality, and they also have a category for innovative design. The innovative design is one that they're really pushing because they want people to come up with new ideas, better ways of doing things, not staying with the status quo. And we are applying for 4 points in that category. As I said, we really hoped to be able to be LEED Gold. It's LEED Silver that the state is going to mandate for their government buildings. There are opportunities and there are challenges, because there are certainly challenges. One of the things that we really need is for the local government to participate, because there are challenges in how we use the land and working with the ordinances of our community. Zoning regulations will need to be adapted a little bit to LEED, as well as parking regulations, because they're looking at reducing the amount of asphalt. So we want to look at that real seriously. And review of the building codes. Actually, the building codes right now have a division of their organization that's looking at integrating some of the LEED components into the International Building Code. They're doing it primarily to addressing LEED and making requirements to be of some of the LEED standards. Another challenge is financing, and we found that out to be a real issue. There are some states that give tax credits, and there's discussion about the federal government coming on board with some tax credits. Right now, there are not tax credits, at least not in this area. Developers and contractors absolutely need to be on board. There are lots of issues that they need to participate through the construction. And one of the reasons right now in our area why LEED buildings are a little bit more expensive is because the contractors have no experience with LEED. They don't know what it is. There's only one contractor in town, and that's the one that built our building, did the remodeling there, that knows and understands parts of it. So that's going to be a real educational process. Communication between the designers and the contractors is also going to be critical so that we can really resolve issues early on. And being innovative is going to be critical to the process. Some of the challenges are the first cost versus the life cost cycle cost. Life cycle costing is something that we should be doing on a more regular basis because if a building's going to cost you, say $100,000, but over the life of the building you're paying so much more for utilities and manpower in that building as well as maintenance, you really need to understand what those costs are, not just the initial cost of the building. Over the life cycle of a building, the staff costs are actually 95% of your costs of that building. Now, if you can increase, and what is being projected is a 2 to 5% increase in productivity in sustainable buildings. If you could increase that by only 1%, you make a significant difference in what you should be paying or what you can afford to pay for your initial cost of your building. And I think that's extremely important to take into consideration. One of the real challenges are now in this area are the appraisers, and the architects and engineers need to learn and understand, and the end users absolutely need to be able to tell people that this is important and we want this to happen in our building. An issue that keeps coming up now is what's called greenwashing. There are lots of people out there that are doing marketing that are referring to their buildings or their products as being green. And it's just like so many times you find products at the store that are low fat, low calorie, low sugar. And it's not necessarily what the advertising is. The green products that are being sold as being sustainable are not always that. It's becoming a buzzword, and you really need to look into it and research what products you use. It will take a global paradigm shift. It is a whole mental process that we need to look at differently and how to be sustainable. We need to understand what we're looking for, what we want. We need to make early decisions, and we need to know and care about the direction we're going. Sustainable education is critical. Until people realize what good it's doing for them, they're not going to jump onto the bandwagon. You may not understand it, but 27 years ago when your airport was designed as a passive solar building. The whole reason for the staggered front of your building is to be able to get the glass pointing due south so that your overhangs will shade that glass in the summertime, yet let that sun come in the wintertime. The whole reason why the roof of the building is stepped back the way it is to distribute your daylighting throughout your building rather than having it all here on the front wall of the south side. Instead, it is distributed through your building so that it becomes a more efficient daylit building. Those types of things are not necessarily readily understood, but a good designer will take those into effect when he is designing the building, and it will make a world of difference over the long run. Every building an architect designs should be designed as a sustainable building. Whether it is going to be become certified or not, it is a state of mind that when we talk to clients, we're telling them that we will design it that way. You choose whether you want it that way or not. One of the biggest costs in the buildings is actually getting the certification, and a lot of people don't want to go through that effort, and that's fine. But there are good reasons for doing that. There are other programs other than just LEED. There's a program called Global 20, or Architecture 2030. It's focused more at the idea of reducing energy consumption rather than being a broad-based, sustainable type of a program. It's looking at trying to reduce the carbon, make the carbon footprint neutral by year 2030. And they have a good program, and we try to integrate some of those ideas with our LEED designs. There's Green Globes that's been put together. It's changing as is LEED. There's nothing wrong with the program, but it is not as universal as LEED is. The International Code Council, as I mentioned to you a little while ago, is looking at the LEED issues, and they're trying to integrate some of them into the IBC. This is our building. This is the Swanners building that we developed here on 7th Street. If you haven't been to it, I invite you to come over. It's not something that when you walk through it that you see that this building is so different than all others, but you will feel a difference in atmosphere. You'll see a difference in the attitude of the people working there. And we see the difference in both our energy costs as well as the reduced absenteeism and the higher productivity. We think it's a great program. We are dedicated and committed to providing this community the best, most sustainable buildings that we possibly can. And we really would like to see the local government, the council, take a direction and support of sustainability and LEED. LEED is nothing but a rating system. So there are others, but I think this is the best rating system out there right now. Sustainable design is the most critical part of it, and LEED is that way to judge and rate how sustainable the buildings are.
Thank you, Fred. Are there questions from the council? Any? We'll go to Alderman Tom Johnson.
I know it's probably difficult to quantify, but have they done any studies based upon payback in regards to just energy or energy and the life cycling costs that you talked about of payback on these things?
Yes, they have. Actually, they've tried to break it down and quantitatively being able to analyze it. And one of the interesting parts of that is that it depends upon the individual points that people try to create. Some of them, and let's take a look at some of them. Some of them become very easy. If we look at sustainable sites, if for me it was a no-brainer to be able to take credit 4.1 alternative transportation because there was public transportation there. Bicycle storage is another one. Since I'm an avid bicyclist, we obviously have bicycle storage, both inside and out. That was an easy point to get. Didn't cost me a single thing. Since I'm downtown, parking capacity. I only have 2 parking spaces behind my building, so I rent spaces from the city. So I got a point for that. Heat island effect. Instead of having a roof that's going to absorb the heat and add to the heat of the community, I have a white roof. And so that reflects the sun. I use concrete for my 2 parking spaces rather than asphalt because I can reflect the sun rather than absorbing that heat. This all assists in reducing the global warming because you're reflecting it away from the building and the earth rather than absorbing it. On the other hand, there's others here that would have been very expensive for me. Stormwater design and controlling it. We looked at the idea of having some underground tanks to be able to have the runoff and then let it seep back out into the system on a more gradual basis. That wasn't cost effective for us. We did the brownfield redevelopment actually, which is credit 3 there, is asbestos, and we removed the asbestos from our building. So that was a no-brainer. There's others that get quite expensive to do, such as down here on energy and atmosphere, credit 6, green power, being able to have wind turbines. We looked into the possibility of wind turbines downtown and found the power company wouldn't allow us to have it because we were too close to power lines. We looked into solar panels, photovoltaic panels, and decided that wasn't cost effective. The payback was out 15 to 25 years. I am now putting the solar panels on my own house. Prices have just come down dramatically, about 40% on photovoltaic cells. And and the payback on my own house isn't as important to me as the payback on commercial buildings that I need to cash flow. So it depends upon which credit you take to how easy it is. For us, we looked at our building and going gold, we were about 12% over what we projected cost, and we anticipate payback to be 8 to 12 years.
Tom, follow up?
Thank you. I did have the opportunity to go through your building twice, and I think I saw you both times. It's quite a building, and I had kind of an intense tour, and it was really interesting how the heating system and the use of existing materials and things like that were kind of coordinated in the building. So it was a good experience. I appreciate the opportunity, but I like the concept of LEED. Thank you.
Tom, and the rest of you also. In that building, we're typically, when they go in and demo the inside of the building, because we basically had to gut almost everything in there, the materials get thrown away. When we put the elevator through and we cut the floor joists out to be able to run the elevator through both the main and second floor, we took those and used those timbers for headers over doors and windows when we did that. When we had to get rid of we took brick out where windows had been blocked in. And we took brick out in the basement where there was a wood stove for their bakery. All that material was reprocessed and used in a landfill that needed the materials. It wasn't taken to a dump, but it was taken so that it was reused in a place that needed the materials. We reused 92% of all the materials that were in the building. So that means that all that material, and we're talking tons and tons of material, did not go to the landfill, and we did not have to order new materials in to be able to replace that. In one situation, because we were committed to it, we took a stud wall down, took the sheetrock off the stud wall, unscrewed the sheetrock, set it aside, took the wall down, put mechanical systems in, and put the sheetrock back on. That wasn't economically viable. Payback there was not good.
Fred, we do have another light on. We'll go to Councilmember Hadcock.
Fred, when you guys designed the Civic Center and the doll, did you use any green products in those?
Yes, we have attempted to use green products as much as possible in there, and some of the simple ones to be able to use are low-emitting materials, materials that don't have chemicals that come out after it's been built. We had talked to the Civic Center board about the possibility of doing some things such as waterless urinals and dual flush toilets. It's something that we have in our building that works very efficiently, and we're not able to convince them that the initial cost was worth the payback.
So it's mostly based on the cost of going green right away because of it costs more?
It does cost more. You can figure for a certified building in Rapid City right now that you would be paying probably 3 to 6% more.
Okay.
And it's primarily because of lack of experience on the contractor's part.
But in the end, you save more, don't you?
Absolutely.
Okay, thanks.
Fred, I have a couple questions. As it relates to us, I understand that you're trying to get us to at least start to look at LEED certification for government buildings. Are there other municipalities currently that you know of that you could just highlight that are primarily using LEED for government buildings? Maybe some large communities, and if you know of any, and any states that have adopted LEED certification.
Yes. And if you give me a day or a couple hours, I can put that list together for you. I don't have it offhand, but there are numerous states that have adopted it, and there's numerous cities that have also adopted it.
Other questions for Fred or comments? We'll go back to Alderman Johnson.
Yeah, I had written this down earlier and forgot to talk about it. Is there any designation that the communities have actually put forward, or they just stay with like a national? Are you encouraging like local municipalities to actually recognize that in terms of where the buildings are, or some certification the city has as well?
I'm encouraging the city, number one, to use guidelines that enhance sustainability. Whether they want to take the next step and get them LEED certified, I think is good, because I think that it is taking and setting a standard to ask others to follow. And it's being done more and more. I believe that this year, and when I first was asked to consult on LEED for the state, LEED Silver for the state, we didn't think that we would be able to pull it off in the first year. But it sure looks like it will be approved this year. Does that answer your question, Tom? Okay.
Or Fred? Fred, thank you. I know this has taken a while. We tried to first, I think, have you here sometime last fall.
Yes.
And due to scheduling, it just didn't work. I think that this is an important topic for communities to start talking about. Obviously, as you had 2 or 3 slides on there talking about an education campaign for the community, or any community, that this is not a conversation that you start today and then expect some implementation tomorrow, but it's an ongoing conversation to really change how we think, truly a paradigm shift in terms of how we look at building or look at sustainable communities in the long run. So we appreciate the fact that you're here today, and thank you for sharing that information. And one of the things that I gave to the council as a Christmas gift was Bill Hughes's book about energy, and it's, you know, the tagline for that book is a book that every locally elected official should read. So we have a couple copies in there, and I think we will start to have this more discussion as we go on about energy reduction and sustainable communities and LEED certification and those sorts of things. So thank you so much for being here.
You're welcome. I would also like to invite you or anybody else to the School of Mines on Sunday afternoon. We're giving a presentation continuing the education process to discuss more as to sustainable design and LEED. They have, I think, a program a month that I've been attending. So thank you very much. Appreciate your attendance.